7 ways to prevent bloating after a meal. My name is Kaylee and I am a certified nutritionist and gut health specialist, and I love helping people to overcome their chronic gut issues at the root using the principles of ancestral nutrition as well as some other holistic health principles. So let's talk about bloating. Before I started working with clients, I had my own gut issues. I struggled with constipation, really severe bloating, gas, and abdominal pain for about 10 years. So what I'm going to share with you in this video is what ultimately allowed me to not get bloating anymore. I used to bloat all the time. Now I never bloat. I can eat a pretty big meal. I usually have around 1,000 calories for dinner and I don't bloat at all after it. I actually feel light and excellent. And these have also helped my clients as well. I've worked with a lot of clients that have had severe bloating, and these are the tips that I've just found most effective in quickly getting rid of that bloating, especially the bloating you get after meals. So I want to start by talking about what causes bloating, because I'm all about getting to the root cause and addressing that. So by understanding the root cause of bloating, you can understand both how to long-term get rid of bloating and how to specifically avoid that bloating each time you go to eat a meal. So what causes bloating? So the biggest cause of bloating is going to be what's called gut dysbiosis, or this is just more simply put, a microbiome imbalance. So your gut microbiome has good microbes in it, and then it has pathogenic microbes in it, and there's always going to be both inside. An ideal microbiome is going to be diverse with lots of different types of microbes and bacteria, and that's going to keep those pathogenic ones in check and make sure that they are in a small amount. So you probably heard, or you may have heard before, that we always have candida in our gut. But in small amounts, it is totally fine. It's when the candida overgrows and you get candida overgrowth that you get these other issues associated with that. So it's the same thing with all other pathogenic microbes that we don't want growing. We need to keep them in that smaller check. So when that doesn't happen, when we have something like antibiotics or use lots of hand sanitizers or disrupt our microbiome in another way, maybe you drink a lot of alcohol or something like that, or eat a lot of sugar, then this gives an opportunity for those pathogenic microbes to overgrow. When they do, and they have something like fiber or food that you didn't fully digest that comes down into the small intestine and the large intestine, mainly the large intestine, then what's going to happen is as these microbes are breaking down the food, eating what they get to eat, they're going to produce a lot of gas. They're very gassy. I don't know why, but the pathogenic ones are super gassy. So this gas is going to cause that bloating because it's going to expand, and that's when you're going to feel the bloating, and that's why it's so common for gas and bloating to be paired together. I would get super bloated and I would get super sticky farts when I had my gut issues. I would actually fart a lot when I had gut issues too, and now I honestly rarely do, which is so weird to me after having that for so long. So they are very paired together. So the biggest things that are going to increase your bloating when you have gut dysbiosis or a microbiome imbalance are going to be too much fiber. The whole thing with fiber is we can't break it down. It's food for our microbiome. So if you give a lot of food to your microbiome and your microbiome is full of a lot of pathogenic microbes, you're going to get a lot of gas and a lot of bloating. Also, if we have any undigested food that we didn't break down full enough to actually absorb all the nutrients into our body, because the nutrients or food has to be broken down into very small pieces so that individual amino acids and other small molecules can actually follow specific channels through our intestinal wall to get into our body. So if our food is not broken down efficiently enough, it's just going to continue in our digestive tract down into that large intestine area where a lot of the microbes are going to feast on it. So if you have poor digestion anywhere up earlier in your digestive system, if you are not chewing your food thoroughly, if your stomach acid is not strong enough, if you are lacking digestive enzymes, if you are lacking enough bile, anything like that is going to make you more prone to bloating. Similarly, If you are choosing very difficult to digest food, like lots of grains and beans and lentils that you have not prepared properly, and by prepared properly, I mean soaked, sprouted, or fermented prior to cooking, then you're just gonna have a harder time breaking it down. And if you're already having digestive issues and you're not producing enough of those enzymes, not having strong enough stomach acid, you're just gonna make this harder on yourself. So it's really important that you're gonna pick easier to digest foods, which I'll get into later in the video. So how do you prevent this bloating? So understanding what's causing it, you probably have a few ideas already, but I still want to go over them to make sure you have it super clear. So short term, don't overdo the fiber. It's hard to digest, and like I said, it's going to make you really gassy. So high fiber foods are going to be plant foods. So it's going to be grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, very fibrous veggies, anything that you chew and you have like that big hunk of fibery stuff like kale or celery that you just have to kind of spit out afterwards. That's a fibrous veggie. So anything like that, you're going to want to just not go overboard with. So I just personally stopped stacking my plates full of veggies, and that's kind of how I cut back on fiber and cut back on the nuts, seeds, legumes, and grains. So then you also want to avoid cold foods and raw plant foods as well. So yeah, a big plate of a bunch of raw veggies is going to be like your worst enemy at this point if you get bloated a lot. So the second one is, my second tip is to use digestive aids. So by this, I mean things like ginger tea. You can do ginger lemon tea, apple cider vinegar water. This can be hot or room temperature. You want to avoid like ice cold beverages though. Digestive teas. So this could be like a cumin, coriander, fennel tea is really good for digestion. You can also use things like ox bile, digestive enzymes, or hydrochloric acid, that's HCl. If you want, but realize that they're not long-term fixes. They can help provide a little bit of symptom relief, but you do need to be working on the root causes of why your digestive enzymes and your stomach acid is low to be able to correct this long-term. So the third tip is to eat when relaxed and while you're hungry, but slightly hungry. So if you are not relaxed, your body's going to be in the sympathetic fight or flight state, and this pulls your energy and your nutrients and your blood all out of your digestive tract and into the things that would help you to fight or flee as if your life is in danger. Our bodies get confused sometimes, and they don't realize that our stress over work or bills or whatever you're stressed about is not an immediate danger situation. We can still react in the same way. So a lot of people get stuck in the sympathetic state a lot of the time just from worrying. So it's really, really important that we are relaxed. We have more of a normal emotional state when we sit down to eat, because when we relax and we're in the parasympathetic nervous state, then our blood and our nutrients and energy all comes back to our digestive system. We'll get nice releases of lots of digestive enzymes. Our stomach acid will be good. Our whole digestive system, the contractions that need to happen to move food and waste along, will all be functioning so much better. So it's really important that when you sit down to eat, you relax. And something that I've noticed before is sometimes if I feel a little unrelaxed, my abdomen feels like a little tight. I tend to get that like tight feeling in my stomach if I'm stressed. It's best to wait. And sometimes it can be a half hour, like that's it. It is so much better to wait until you feel better than to try to shove food down when you're stressed. If you aren't feeling good, take a hot shower or read outside, go on a walk, do something to relax you before you eat if you can. That's going to be the best option there. Also, I mentioned to eat when you are a little bit hungry. So it's good to let yourself get hungry between meals. You don't want to be grazing and snacking throughout the whole day. I talk about that a lot. That's not ideal. You want to be having solid meals with at least 3 hours in between each meal. So you want to give your body enough time to be hungry for your meals, but you don't want to wait so long that you're like ravenous and starving, because if you do, there's going to be more of a tendency for you to overeat, which is one of the things that can make bloating worse. So try to time your meals so that you are slightly hungry for them. So number 4 is to not eat too fast or too much. If you're eating too fast, you oftentimes won't digest your food quite as well. You won't chew it quite as well. That is one of the first parts of digestion, is chewing your food. So it's really important that you slow down. You'll enjoy it more. So you'll be able to recognize when you reach that moment that's, I'm full, I've had the perfect amount. Whereas if you are rushing through your meals, you're much more likely to miss that cue and then get to the, oh man, I ate too much feeling that you want to avoid for your comfort, and especially because you're trying to avoid bloating. So yeah, with that, eating too much is just going to put too much of a burden on your digestive system. Your body tells you to stop at a certain time for a reason. So make sure you're not eating too much. So then, oh, and one other thing there, people are a little different. When I had really bad gut issues, I noticed eating too much at night was like the worst. If it was too late, like right before bed, that made it even worse for me. So that is very common as well. So definitely avoid eating too much too late. So number 5 is to center your meals around animal foods. So that's going to be meat, bone broth, eggs, dairy if you can tolerate it, stuff like that. This doesn't mean you can't eat other foods. It just means this should be the focus that you want to essentially, when you're building your plate and meal, focus on first, so you get enough of that. Now, this is going to ensure that you have enough protein and enough fat. These foods do not really get fermented by the microbiome so much, so they're going to be a lot less gas producing. They also are very satiating, so they're going to help you to actually feel energized and satiated and be able to stop at just the right time. If you've ever been eating something like a steak or just any kind of protein, eggs, a piece of meat, it is so hard to overeat that. Like once you've had the right amount, you've had the right amount, and it's like way hard to overeat it. Something sweet is totally different. It's easy to overeat sweets. So if you have enough protein and fat and animal foods, you won't be at risk for overeating as much, and then you won't get as bloated. So then long term, you really need to fix your gut microbiome. So this is the 6th tip. It is so, so important. So I have a whole video about that. So I will link that one up above. It is about gut dysbiosis. So when your microbiome gets off, all the different things that can cause gut dysbiosis and what you can start doing to overcome that. Eating fermented foods is going to be, I would say, one of the most important, but there are a lot of other things in that video, so you should definitely check that one out as well. So then number 7, my last tip for you, is to have an excellent functioning digestive system all around. Every part of your digestive system should be functioning like a top-notch machine. It really should, and this is one of those long-term things because it can take a little bit of time. But through different eating habits, through your diet and your lifestyle, you can absolutely achieve this. So if you want more info on how to get your digestive system to function like a top-notch machine that just works so efficiently and reliably, then I have a free training about how to do that. So I will go ahead and link that down below if you want to check it out. In the training, I go over the 5 keys for a successful gut healing routine. I talk about the importance of a personalized, sustainable, and nourishing diet and how you can create that for yourself. I go over how to have full, relieving, healthy bowel movements daily and effortlessly. And I also cover the most common mistakes I see people make when they're going to heal their gut so that you can avoid making those mistakes too. So yeah, if you want to learn how your digestive system is working and how to get each part to function at its peak, so that when food and waste makes its way down to your intestines, your microbiome is going to be functioning great and everything will have worked great up until then to really, really eliminate any bloating in your body. So I really recommend that you check that out. And also, like I mentioned earlier, I also recommend that you check out that video on how to heal gut dysbiosis and get your microbiome functioning well. Together, those 2 resources will really seriously help you stop bloating. So I'll link that video right there on how to overcome gut dysbiosis and get your microbiome functioning great. So you can check that out if you want to use that to help you overcome your bloating. So thanks for watching.